Hi,
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
To Miss Cleo's Storytelling Corner. My name is Cleo Duke Wright, and I own Cull Books at 677 Blue Hills Avenue in Hartford, Connecticut. And my show today, I forgot to welcome you all to the bookstore. Anytime you want to come up, just have a cup of coffee, sit down, enjoy, and I would love to meet each and every one of you. And I was sitting wondering what the show should be about today. This book said, me. And I looked down. I had not picked up this book. I don't think I picked up this book for more than a year or so. And it is The Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell. And this is an interview between Bill Moyer and Joseph Campbell just before his death. And Joseph Campbell always talked about rapture, and I met him in a bookstore. When I say I met him, I walk around the bookstore and I'm looking around and I just see the power of myth. And I being a storyteller, I pick up the book not knowing what the book was about, not ever hearing about or heard of Joseph Campbell, and I started to read. And I just got intrigued with it. I don't think it was The Power of Myth. I can't even remember what book it was. But it told about ancient times. It told about how we lived, people lived, what place man was, women, children. And it just so intrigued me. And so I've been buying Joseph Campbell ever since, because his words are not a collection of information. His words, it goes deeper than that, and that's what he's talking to you. He's talking to your inner self, and it truly comes out because Joseph Campbell uses some words I don't know what they are, but I have a sense of those words. I have a sense of what he's talking about, and it makes me want to go and venture on and look up the words and know what he's talking about. So I'm going to read you, and now that was Joseph Campbell, and I have other books here of poetry and different ideas and Shakespeare, because if we did not have these things, I thought to myself, where would we be? Would we be in the world of go to college, work hard, collect information, get a good job, get married, have your children, buy your house? Oh, and all is well in the world. Do this, do that, the other thing. And I'm of an age when I've done most of those things. And nothing that they said would happen, that special feeling like I made it, that special peace and innerness. I said, where is this? So I kept on going and going and going. Yeah, the next thing. And all of a sudden, you get old and say, wait a minute, hold on. Where does it stop? Where does it stop? But if you feel and listen to the artists, to the painters, to the creators, to the philosophers, to the poets who speak a totally different language, you get a totally different picture of the world. And you say, aha, I'm connected. I'm connected with the rest of the universe. And you know, it didn't cost me nothing. It cost gives me the realization of knowing who I am with the rest of the world and the rest of creation. Wow. So that's what I got out of finally, after getting into poetry and learning what an artist is. You know, we could not live without artists. Do you know how important they are? Do you know how important stories are? Do you know how important you have to go inside yourself? They say there are 3 languages. The first language is the language that we did. Baby language, you know, the first languages that we learn, that language of kind of love. The second language is informational language, gather a lot of information. The third language is politics and economics. But the language of innocence and spirituality is the first language. Poetry is the first language. The Bible is the first language. The Quran is the first language. And Joseph Campbell tries to get us back to that rapture. So I'm going to, this is myth. I'm not going to read you much of any of this. And I'm not an expert in any of this. I haven't studied it. I just enjoy it. And I try my best to understand it. And I read and I look up and I just get the more I get into my rapture, as Joseph Campbell says, the more I enjoy these things of the world, and the more I can go into the materialistic world and understand that's not where I belong, but I'm going to go get that new dress down there anyway, you know, and I'm listening to what they're saying, and I can deal with things when I know who I am compared with the rest of the world. So here it is. I'm going to just read a little bit. Myth, the modern world. And he says, people say that what we're all seeking is a meaning for life. I don't think that what we're really seeking. I think that what we're seeking is an experience of being alive, so that our life experience on the purely physical plane will have resonance within our own innermost being and reality, so that we actually feel the rapture of being alive. This is the beginning of Bill Moyer's and Joseph Campbell's interview, where Moyer is asking questions and Campbell is answering them. His first question is, why myth? Why should we care about myth? What do they have to do with my life? My first response would be, this is Campbell, go on, live your life. It's a good life. You don't need mythology. I don't believe in being interested in a subject just because it's said to be important. I believe in being caught by it somehow or other. But you may find that with a proper introduction, mythology will catch you. And so, what can it do for you if it does catch you? One of our problems today is that we are not well acquainted with the literature of the spirit. We're interested in the news of the day and the problems of the hour. It used to be that the university campus was a kind of hermetically sealed. I know the word I can't get out of my mouth. Sealed off area where the news of the day did not impinge upon your attention to the inner life and to the magnificent human heritage we have in our great tradition. Plato, Confucius, the Buddha, Garth, and others who speak of the eternal value that have to do with the centering of our lives. When we get to be older and the concerns of the day have all been attended to, and you turn to the inner life, well, if you don't know where it is or what it is, you'll be sorry. Greek and Latin and biblical literature used to be part of everybody's education. Now, when these were dropped, or a whole generation of occidental methodological information was lost. It used to be that these stories were in the minds of people. When the story is in your mind, then you see its relevance to something happening in your own life. It gives you perspective on what's happening to you. With the loss of that, we've really lost something because we don't have a comparable literature to take its place. These bits of information from ancient times, which have to do with the things that have supported human life, built civilizations, and informed religions over the millennia, have to do with the deep inner problems, inner mysteries, inner thresholds of passage. And if you don't know what the guide signs are along the way, you have to work it out yourself. But once this subject catches you, there is such a feeling from one or another of these traditions of information of a deep, rich life, vivifying sort that you don't want to give up. Once you know what it is, once you get introduced to it, you don't want to give it up. Let's go on to hear more right after this commercial. I'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Eddie Brown, Program Director at Hartford Communities That Care. I've been in the field of youth development and mentoring for the past 5 years, serving children, youth, young adults, and families. It has been an amazing experience since I have been on board with HCTC to help make a difference in the lives of our youth. Throughout my experiences, I've learned the importance of a good mentor, which is simply being the adult that has time for a child, who cares about that child, and who believes in that child. Here's a few points. Allowing the youth to understand their full potential, respects cultural differences, providing the prolonged relationship which helps the youth as they go through life, listens well, is stable, is a positive role model, nurtures a positive relationship that respects the mentee, reinforces mentee's success, shares decision-making with mentee, and last but not least, passion, wanting to make a difference. Practicing and applying these skills have been very vital in all the work I do to help assist and coordinate in the programs and services we offer at HCTC. I thank you for your time, and for all the mentors and role models out there, let's continue to be the change.
Joseph Campbell once said, and welcome back to Miss Cleo Storytelling Corner. I get so anxious, I just want to get started. Welcome back. Thank you for coming back. Joseph Campbell once said about perfection. God is perfect. Perfection. And it's really hard to He said perfection is boring. Perfection is boring. You know that perfect person in your class, that goody that sits over there in the classroom and does everything perfectly, follows the whole perfect. He says it's hard to relate to a perfect being. He said that's why some people cannot relate to God, because he's so perfect. But it's not hard to relate to Jesus, and it's not hard to relate to suffering. So you can relate to that, but relating to perfect is much harder. And I'm going to read something to you. This is out of Jane Weldon Johnson's God's Trombone. Jesus, my gentle Jesus, walking in the dark of the Garden of Gethsemane, saying to the 3 disciples, sorrow is in my soul, even unto death. Tarry ye here a little while, and watch with me. Jesus, my burdened Jesus, praying in the dark of the Garden of Gethsemane, saying, Father, oh Father, this bitter cup, let it pass from me. Jesus, my sorrowing Jesus, the sweat like drops of blood upon his brow, talking with his Father, while the 3 disciples slept, saying, Father, oh Father, not as I will, but let thy will be done. Oh, look at black-hearted Judas sneaking through the dark of the garden, leading his crucifying mob. Oh, God, strike him down. Why don't you strike him down before he plants his treacherous kiss upon my Jesus' cheek? And they take my blameless Jesus, and they drag him to the governor, to the mighty Roman governor, great Pilate seated in his hall, great Pilate on his judgment seat, said, in this man I find no fault. I find no fault in him. And Pilate washed his hands. But they cried out, saying, Crucify! Crucify him! Crucify him! His blood be on our heads. And they beat my loving Jesus. They spit on my precious Jesus. They dressed him up in a purple robe. They put a crown of thorns upon his head, and they pressed it down. Oh, they pressed it down, and they mocked my sweet King Jesus. People can relate to suffering, and people can relate to Jesus. I did not finish that. I went that far. I wanted the feeling to come out. You could see this. You could see this suffering. And where do we find our feelings and our spirituality? In our inner selves, through poetry, through the suffering of Christ and other prophets. Where do we find our connectedness with the universe and with beautiful Mother Nature? in the cool of the evening. And I think I do have time to read this. In the cool of the evening, when the low sweet whispers waken, when the laborers turn them homeward and the weary have their will, when the censers of the roses o'er the forest aisles are shaken, is it but the wind that cometh o'er the far green hill? For they say 'tis but the sunset winds that wander through the heather, rustle all the metal grass, and bend the dewy fern. They say 'tis but the wind that bow the reeds into prayer together, and fill the shaken pools with fire along the shadowy burn. In the beauty of the twilight, in the garden that he loveth, they have veiled his lovely vesture with the darkness of a name. Through his garden, it is but the wind that moveth no more. But oh, the miracle is the same. What is that about? What is that about? Wow. Long before you know what it's about, long before you understand every single word, you feel it. You say, somewhere in me, I know what this means. Somewhere in me, this is talking to me. But can you say it? Can you say it out loud? Yes, you can. If I study, I can only talk about myself. If I study it, if I read it again and again, and then take it apart, I'll be able to tell you what I feel. But at a reading, of a first reading, or even a second reading, I know not. I just know it fills me. It fills me. And this is something that, when all is done, it is still there, the rapture. And if you don't look for it, I'm going to really knock this thing over. If you don't look for it, you're going to be sorry. You're going to be sorry when all is done. And you've done everything that you could in your life. You really need your inner self. And right now, we're going to go to another commercial, and we'll be right back with our last section. I'll see you in a moment.
Hi, my name is Tyreek Marquez. I am a member of Hartford Communities That Care Youth Leadership. For the past 27 weeks, we have been examining the intersection between education, poverty, violence, and trauma in Hartford. I have learned a great deal based on research we have done, but I would like to tell a personal story. On August 27th, 2008, I attended a parade in the north end of Hartford when bullets began to fly and one person was killed. 6 people were injured, including myself. I was 7 years old and I was shot in my head, leaving me with partial paralysis, something I still live with every day. I struggle, but I overcome, and I am no different from any other teenage boy. This is why I do things in my community, such as awareness events,
with my mom and the Victims Against Violence group. I also do things with HCTC because we want to see change. Thank you for taking the time to hear my story.
Welcome back to Miss Cleo Storytelling Corner. While we were on break, I had to laugh to myself because my aunt used to always laugh when I tried to read poetry sometimes, and when I read Shakespeare, because I always didn't pronounce things correctly. And as I'm sitting here, I feel my aunt who passed in 2000, I feel her laughter, and I'm smiling with her. I used to cry, but I'm smiling with her now. Okay, the Barb of Satire, the Vicar of Bray. And see if this is true. I don't know. Listen to this closely. This seemed very familiar to me. Maybe not their understanding, but my kind of understanding of it. In good King Charles's golden days, when loyalty no harm meant, a zealous high churchman was I, and so I got preferment to teach my flock. I never missed. Kings were by God's appointed, and lost are those that dare resist or touch the Lord's anointed. And this is law that I'll maintain until my dying day, sir, that whatsoever king shall reign, still I'll be the Vicar of Bray, sir. I kind of thought of Donald Trump when I read this. When Royal James possessed the crown and popery grew in fashion, the penal laws I hooted down and read the declarations. The Church of Rome I found would fit full well my constitution, and I had been a Jesuit but for the Revolution. When William was our king declared to ease the nation's grievance, with this new wind about I stirred and swore to him allegiance. Old principles I did revoke, set conscience at a distance. Passive obedience was a joke. A jest was non-resistant. When Royal Anne became our queen, the Church of England glory, another face of things was seen, and I became a Tory. Occasionally conformist-based, I blamed their moderation and thought the church in danger was by such prevarication. When George in puddling time came o'er, and moderate men looked big, sir, my principles I changed once more, and so became a Whig, sir, and thus preferment I procured from our new faith defender, and almost every day abjured the Pope and the pretender. The illustrator's house of Hanover and Protestant succession, to these I do allegiance. I know you know this word. To thee I do elegance swear, while they can keep possession. For in my faith and loyalty I never more will falter, and George my lawful king shall be until the time do falter. And this is law that I'll maintain until my dying day, sir, that whatsoever king shall reign, still I'll be the vicar of Bracer. Wow. I had a sense of that. And yes, sorry for the mispronunciations. I couldn't see them quite clearly with these glasses, but I hope you got even though I did that and Aunt Dorothy is laughing her head off, you got a sense of the poem. Now this is what I get out of this. Whatever was, whatever is, whatever on the table, was who's ever doing it, I'm going that way, and I'm going to stay exactly who I am. And I do exactly what I have to do. Whether I believe it or not, I'm going that way. That's what I get out of it. It's probably much deeper than that, and probably some of you have got a better understanding of that. But that's kind of my understanding. Kind of loose. I'd have to sort of think about it, but it's someone who goes with the flow. That's that poem. I'm going with the flow, and I'm keeping my title, and that's all there is to it until the day I die. Period. End of story. Done. So that's kind of what I got out of that. Okay. Opportunity. They do me wrong who say I come no more, when once I knocked and failed to find you in. For every day I stand outside your door and bid you wake and rise to fight and win. Wail not for precious chances passed away. Weep not for golden ages on the wane. Each night I burn the records of the day. At sunrise, every soul is born again. Dost thou behold thy lost youth all august? Doth reel from righteous retribution's blow? Then turn from blotted archives of the past and find the future pages white as snow. Art thou a mourner? Roused thee from thy spell. Art thou a sinner? Sin may be forgiven. Each morning gives thee wings to flee from hell. Each night a star to guide thy feet to heaven. Laugh like a boy at splendors that have sped. To vanish joys be blind and deaf and dumb. My judgment sealed, the dead past with its dead, but never bind a moment yet to come. Though deep in mire, wring not your hands and weep. I lend my arms to all who say I can. No shame-faced outcast ever sank so deep. but yet might rise and be again a man. Opportunity. Well, that's our show today. I had some Shakespeare to try to get through today, but we don't have time for that. I hope you enjoyed the show, because I enjoyed putting it together. You know, you have this in you that you want to give, and yet you can't say it with words. It's not with words you're saying it. And I want you to get it. But it is not in the first language. If it's not the language of love, oh, how sweet. Because in the first language, you really have to talk, do you? You don't always have to talk when you hold that baby in your arms. When you look at a loved one, or when you're looking at someone and you're feeling this great rapture, as Joseph Campbell puts it, there is no speaking. So I hope that you caught my unspoken gift to you today. I hope you have. And if you have not, I will be back again someday with the same kind of stuff, with the same kind of verse. Different but the same, to try again as opportunity comes. And remember, read a little, write a little, dream big, and I'll be with you again next week.